Hello children, in this video we will be doing Unit 2.5 Let's March, which is a speech given by Kailash Satyarthi. He is an Indian children's rights and education advocate and an activist against child labor. He founded the Bachpan Bachao Andolan in 1950 and has acted to protect the rights of more than 83,000 children across 144 countries. He is honored with many awards, including Nobel Peace Prize of 2014. He had addressed this speech on the eve of Nobel Prize distribution ceremony. So now, let's read the speech and understand what he tries to tell to the world. My dear children of the world, Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, dear brother Tom Harkin, brothers and sisters, and my dear daughter Malala. From this podium of peace and humanity, I am deeply honored to recite a mantra from the ancient texts of wisdom, Vedas. This mantra carries a prayer, an aspiration, and a resolve that has the potential to liberate humanity from all man-made crises. Let's walk together in the pursuit of global progress. Not a single person should be left out or left behind in any corner of the world. From east to west, from south to north. Let's speak together. Let our minds come together, learning from the experiences of our ancestors. Let us together create knowledge for all that benefits all. I bow to my late parents, to my motherland India, and to the Mother Earth. With a warm heart, I recall how thousands of times I have been liberated. Each time I have freed a child from slavery. In the first smile of freedom of their beautiful faces, I see the gods smiling. So children, in this is a speech given by Kailash Satyarthi when he received the Nobel Peace Prize. So that is why the beginning of the lesson is addressing the audience present there. It's a salutation. Now, this program was held in the country of Norway. His salutation begins with Your Majesties, Your Royal Highness, because in Europe there are still many countries where there are kings and queens even today. Tom Harkin is also a child activist around the world, and he calls Malala Yousafzai his daughter. He says that from the stage where he is standing, he would like to recite a mantra from the Vedas, which is a prayer to liberate, that is to free humanity from all the man-made crises like child labor, child trafficking, terrorism, etc. He says that let us all together help each other in all the corners of the world. He says, let us unite together and work together for the betterment of the world. He also says that knowledge should be given to everyone, the rich and the poor. He says that further he pays respect to his parents who are not anymore in this world, to India and to the entire world. He says that he felt very satisfying when he saw a smile on the beautiful faces of the children whom he has saved from slavery. He says that how he has seen godliness in all the children that he saved. I give the biggest credit of this honor to my movements Kalu Kumar, Dhoom Das and Adarsh Kishore from India and Iqbal Masiha from Pakistan, who made the supreme sacrifice for protecting the freedom and dignity of children. I humbly accept this award on behalf of all such martyrs, my fellow activists across the world, and my countrymen. My journey from the great land of Lord Buddha, Guru Nanak, and Mahatma Gandhi, India to Norway, is a connect between the two centers of global peace and brotherhood, ancient and modern. Friends, the Nobel Committee has generously invited me to present a lecture. Respectfully, I am unable to do that because I am representing here the sound of silence, the cry of innocence, and the face of invisibility. I represent millions of those children who are left behind, and that's why I have kept an empty chair here as a reminder. I have come here only to share the voices and dreams of our children because they are all our children. Gesture to everyone in the audience. I have looked into their frightened and exhausted eyes. I have held their injured bodies and felt their broken spirits. So, children, he further thanks the members of his movement who have supported him in freeing the children, like Kalu Kumar, Dhoom Das, and Adarsh Kishore from India and Iqbal Masiha from Pakistan. He thanks them for sacrificing their lives for protecting the freedom and dignity of children. He accepts the award on their behalf. He says that he has traveled across many countries to do his good deed. He says there is a connection between India and Norway, and that is global peace. He says that the Nobel Committee had invited him to present a lecture, but he cannot give a lecture because he is representing here the sound of silence, which means the unheard plea of the deprived. There are still many children who are suffering in silence. So, children, you are very lucky that you have this life where you can study and live your childhood. But there are many children out there who do not get all of this. So he further says that he is here to represent the innocent children and the unnoticed sufferings of the poor and the young children. He says that he represents millions of those children who do not get anything, the children from whom their childhood is taken away. And then he points out to an empty chair, telling that this empty chair is for all the children who are suffering. He says that he is come here just to share the voices and the dreams of those children. He points out to the audience and says that these are all our children. And he further says that he has seen the frightened and tired eyes of the children. Some of them were even injured and had lost their hope in life. 20 years ago, in the foothills of the Himalayas, I met a small, skinny child laborer. He asked me, "Is the world so poor that it cannot give me a toy and a book instead of forcing me to take a gun or a tool?" I met with a Sudanese child soldier. He was kidnapped by an extremist militia. As his first training lesson, he was forced to kill his friends and family. He asked me, "What is my fault?" Friends, all the great religions teach us to care for our children. Jesus said, "Let the children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to them." The Holy Quran says, "Kill not your children because of poverty." Friends, there is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. Therefore, I refuse to accept that all the temples and mosques and churches and prayer houses have no place for the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that the world is so poor when just 1 week of global military expenditure can bring all the children to classrooms. 80. I refuse to accept that all the laws and constitutions, police and judges are unable to protect our children. I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery can ever be stronger than the quest for freedom. I refuse to accept here. So children, 20 years ago, when Kailash was near the Himalayas, that is the foothills of the Himalayas, he met a small malnourished child laborer. He asked him that was the world so poor that they cannot give him a toy to play and a book to study? Instead, they have given him work and guns. Then Kailash met a Sudanese child soldier who was kidnapped by extremist militia, that is, a terrorist group, and made him a terrorist. His first training, that is a lesson, was to kill his friends and family, and the child asked Kailash that what was his fault? What wrong did he do to get this life? So children, can you see the amount of bad things happening to these children? He further says that no religion is bad. Every religion teaches us to care for the children and for humanity. Like in the Bible and the Quran, both the books tells us to take care of the children. He says that religion supports the freedom of children. He refuses to accept that places of worship, laws, and constitution have no power to help children realize their dreams. He says that even if the government gives 1 week expenses of the global military to the children's fund, then it can bring all those children back to the classrooms. They will be able to study with that amount of money. He refuses to accept that the chains of slavery are stronger than freedom. My only aim in life is that every child is free to be a child, free to grow and develop, free to eat, sleep, and see daylight, free to laugh and cry, free to play and learn, free to go to school, and above all, free to dream. I have the privilege of working with many courageous people who have the same aim. We have never given up against any threat or attack, and we never will. We have made progress in the last couple of decades. We have reduced the number of out of school children by half. We have reduced the number of child laborers by a third. We have reduced child mortality and malnutrition, and we have prevented millions of child deaths. But let us make no mistake, great challenges still remain. Friends, the biggest challenge or biggest crisis knocking on the doors of humankind is fear and intolerance. We have utterly failed our children in imparting an education that gives the meaning and objective of life, an education that gives a sense of global citizenship among the youth. So, children, here he specifies his aim, which is to help children develop physically, socially, emotionally, and intellectually, showing a ray of hope. He narrates the success achieved by them in all the areas, like the reduced number of child laborers, child mortality, that is the deaths of children, and malnutrition, that is the food that they provided to the children. He considers that fear and intolerance is the biggest challenge today. He says that failed in giving education, that is the world has failed the children in giving education to these poor children, which would make them a global citizen. So that is why he is stressing on education, because education is the one thing that can make the children face all the problems and face the world and make them good citizens. I am afraid that the day is not very far away when the cumulative results of this failure will culminate in an unprecedented violence, and that will be suicidal for humankind. Rights, security, hope can only be restored through education. Young people like Malala, I've started calling her my daughter. Malala, not just Malala. So my daughter Malala and other daughters, including Kainat, in fact, 2 Kainats, and Shazia, and the daughters from Africa and from all over the world. They are rising up and choosing peace over violence, tolerance over extremism, and courage over fear. The solutions are emerging, but these solutions cannot be found in the deliberations in conferences alone, and cannot be found in prescriptions from a distance. They lie in small groups and local organizations and individuals who are confronting with the problem every day. Even if they remain unacknowledged, unrecognized, and unknown to the world, the solution are with them. So, children, he is afraid that these children who are not educated and taught humanity would be a great danger to the world, as these children would grow up to be terrorists or would be engaged in other violence which would only harm the world. So, we can prevent all these things and the children from turning into all these only by educating them. Kailash Satyarthi gives examples of brave daughters like Malala, Kainat, and Shazia. He applauds their efforts for fighting for freedom and against violence and for courage over fear. He says that there is a change, but these changes do not happen just by sitting in one place and doing conferences. The challenges faced by the children can be solved by small groups, local organizations, and individuals who are facing and attacking the problem every day. Even if these people or groups may not be famous or known to the world, or may be not appreciated by anyone, but they are the ones who make a real change and bring up solutions. We can do it. You may ask that. What can one person do? I would recall a story of my childhood. A heavy fire had broken out in the forest. All the animals were running away, including Lion, the king of the forest. Suddenly, then he saw a tiny bird rushing towards the fire. He asked the bird, "What are you doing?" To the lion's surprise, the bird replied, "I am going to extinguish the fire." The lion laughed and said, "How can you do it, keeping just one drop of water in your beak?" The bird was adamant, and she said, "I am doing my bit." 18 years ago, millions of individuals marched across the globe and demanded a new international law for the abolition of worst form of child labor. And it has happened. We did it. Millions of individuals did it. Friends, we live in an age of rapid globalization. We are connected through high-speed internet. We exchange our goods and services in one single global market. Thousands of flights every day connect us from one corner to another corner of the globe. But there is one serious disconnect, and there is a lack of compassion. Let us inculcate and transform these individuals. Compassion into global compassion. Let us globalize compassion. Mahatma Gandhi said, "If we are to teach real peace in this world, we shall have to begin with the children." I humbly add, let us unite the world through the compassion of our children. So here, Kailash Satyarthi puts out a question to the audience. How can one person bring out a change? Then, to answer this question, he narrates a story of his childhood, when a fire broke out in the forest and all the animals were running for their life, including the lion, who is the king of the forest. But then, one small bird tries to extinguish the fire with just one drop of water in its beak. But when the lion asked, how could it extinguish this huge fire with a drop of water? Then it replied, saying that the bird is doing what it could do, whereas the rest of them were just running to save their lives. He stresses that individuals have the potential to begin a revolution, as 18 years ago, millions of people protested across the globe against the worst form of child labor, and it has worked. He further says that We live in a world where there is globalization, where there is high speed internet. But there is one thing that is not there, that is compassion, that is pity and concern for those who are suffering. He tells the world to teach each other the need for compassion. He also uses the lines by Mahatma Gandhi, where it tells that if we want peace in the world, then it should begin with teaching the children first, because they are the ones who will grow up to what they are taught. So that is why we need to teach our children and ourselves the beauty of compassion. I ask, whose children are they who stitch footballs, yet never played with one? Whose children are they who harvest cocoa, yet have never tasted chocolate? Whose children are they who are dying of Ebola? Whose children are they who are kidnapped and held hostage? They are all our children. I remember an 8-year-old girl we rescued from intergenerational forced labor from stone quarries. When she was sitting in my car right after her rescue, she asked me, "Why did you not come earlier?" Her angry question still shakes me and has the power to shake the whole world. Her question is for all of us. What are we doing? What are we waiting for? How many girls will we allow to go without rescue? Children are questioning our inaction and watching our actions. We need collective actions with a sense of urgency. Every single minute matters. Every single child matters. Every single childhood matters. Therefore, I challenge the passivity and pessimism surrounding our children. I challenge this culture of silence and this culture of passivity, this culture of neutrality. So, children, here he asks these different questions of children who stitch footballs, harvest cocoa, dying of Ebola, who are kidnapped. He says that these are all our children and that we should fight for them. He remembers one incident when he rescued an 8-year-old girl from a forced labor that affected several generations, that had to work in a stone quarry, that is a type of open pit mine where rocks have to be cut and carried to different locations. So when she was being rescued, she just asked Kailash that why did they not come earlier? He further says that we need to act fast, as every day there is one or the other child somewhere in the world who is suffering. So we need to act urgently and rescue them all. He challenges the fact of people not taking any action and sitting quiet, and the negativity that is surrounded the children. He says that he is against this culture where people are silent and not supporting or helping in the fight for the freedom of these children who are suffering all around the world. I call upon all the governments, intergovernmental agencies, businesses, faith leaders, workers, teachers, and NGOs, and each one of us to put an end to all forms of violence against children, slavery, trafficking, child marriages, child labor, sexual abuse, and illiteracy. These things have no place in any civilized society. Friends, we can do this. Governments must make child friendly policies and invest in education and young people. Businesses must be more responsible, accountable, and open to innovative partnerships. Intergovernmental agencies must work together to accelerate action. Global civil society must rise above the business as usual and fragmented agendas. Faith leaders and institutions and all of us must stand with our children. We must be bold, we must be ambitious, and we must have the will. We must keep our promises. Over 50 years ago, on the first day of my school, I met a cobbler boy my age sitting outside the gate of my school. I asked my teachers, why is he working outside? Why is he not with us in the school? My teachers had no answer. One day, I gathered the courage to ask the boy's father. He said, "Sir, I have never thought about it. We are born to work." His answer made me angry, and it still makes me angry. So, children, here he calls out to all the governments, business, teachers, workers, and NGOs to come forward and put an end to this violence against children, like slavery, trafficking, sexual abuse, child marriages, etc., and many, many more. He tells all of them to come forward with the new advanced ideas to bring a change. He says that we must all be bold and keep our promises. He gives an example of about 50 years ago when he met a cobbler boy of his own age sitting outside his school. Kailash asked his teachers of why was the boy working outside, but the teachers had no answer. One day, when Kailash asked the boy's father the same question, his father answered that they were born to work, and his answer angered Kailash. As a child, I had a vision of tomorrow, a vision of that cobbler boy sitting with me in my classroom. Now that tomorrow has become today, I am today, and you are today. Today is time for every child to have a right to life, right to freedom, right to health, right to education, right to safety, right to dignity, right to equality, and right to peace. Today, beyond the darkness, I see the smiling faces of our children in the blinking stars. Today, in every wave of every ocean, I see my children are playing and dancing. Today, in every plant, in every tree and mountain, I see my children growing freely with dignity. Friends, I want you to see and feel this today inside you. My dear sisters and brothers, as I have said, many interesting things happening today. May I please request you to put your hand close to your heart, close your eyes, and feel the child inside you. I am sure you can. Now, listen to that child. Listen, please. Today, I see thousands of Mahatma Gandhis, Nelson Mandelas, and Martin Luther Kings calling on us. So, children, here, Kailash always had a vision of that cobbler boy sitting beside him in the same classroom as his. Now that everything has passed away, he wants that no child should be made to suffer. He wants every one of the individual to fight for the rights of the children. He says that if we all work towards the freedom of child, then at that point itself he can see the smiling faces of the children in the future. He further asked the audience and to all the people listening to put their hands close to their heart and to close their eyes and feel the child inside them. And after doing this, they all can surely listen to that child that is inside them. He says that today he can see many Mahatma Gandhis, Nelson Mandela, and the other leaders who worked towards peace and humanity of the world. Let us democratize knowledge. Let us universalize justice. Together, let us globalize compassion. I call upon you in this room and all across the world. I call for a march from exploitation to education. I call for a march from poverty to shared prosperity, a march from slavery to liberty, and a march from violence to peace. Let us march from ignorance to awakening. Let us march from darkness to light. Let us march from mortality to divinity. Let us march. So here he says that we should avail free knowledge to everyone, and justice should be given to all over the world to everyone. We need to show pity and help the ones who are suffering. He calls upon everyone in the room who are present and everyone around the world to fight against exploitation and bring in education instead of that. For the rich to help the poor, a fight against slavery and to bring in freedom, and to fight against violence and to bring in peace into the world. He wants us all to awaken and stop ignoring and bring light into the darkness. He wants us to march from the evil to a place of holiness and divine place, which is a good place to live in, not only for us, but also for all those innocent children. Okay, children, with this we have now completed with the explanation. Thank you for listening, children. Take care.